Welcome back to the Tapes Archive podcast, where we release interviews that have never been heard before. In this episode, we have the first of two interviews with Rage Against the Machine's Tom Morello. At the time of this interview in 1993, Morello was 29 years old and was out on tour supporting the band's self-titled first record. In the interview, Tom talks about the pushing of an anti-censorship agenda, the Lollapalooza t-shirt debacle, and how they're not just Public Enemy for white kids. As always, we have music critic Mark Allen at the helm conducting the interview. If you'd like to support the show, please like, follow, and subscribe to us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. There, we post other content and information not available on the podcast. If you'd like to read the transcripts for any of our episodes, please head over to our website at thetapesarchive.com. We'll jump into the interview after a quick word from our sponsors. The Tapes Archive is proud to be sponsored by the true crime documentary Dead Man's Line.
You've got 100 armed officers around here trying to get a shot at me. I dared them to shoot me. I didn't go down there to be a buffoon. I went down there for vengeance. And by God, I'll have vengeance.
In 1977, Tony Kuritzis kidnapped a mortgage broker and held him captive for 3 days. For the first time ever, the media was able to cover the event live. To some, Tony was a hero. To others, he was a crazed thug. Dead Man's Line, the true story of Tony Kuritzis.
This award-winning film is available exclusively on Amazon Prime. One last thing before we get to the interview, the Tapes Archive podcast is a proud member of Osiris Media, a global community connecting passionate fans with podcasts and experiences about artists and topics you love. Thanks for tuning in, and now it's time to open the vault.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
I'm just fine.
First thing I want to ask you about is there was a rumor going around here that you guys were dropping off this tour and canceling your tour, but I'm taking it this is not true.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely not true. We canceled 7 dates from the from our headlining tour with Quicksand. I'm sorry, can you hold on just one second,
sure.
please? Brad, our little drummer boy, hurt his, he had a sprained muscle in his spine, and the doctor said just had to rest, so came home for about a week and a half, and he's hopefully all healed up for the beginning of the Cypress Hill tour. So.
Is this a good match?
Oh, I can't wait for it. I mean, not just Cypress Hill, but 7 Year Bitch, favorite band, and we played some shows with Funk Dubious before. I think it's we're covering a lot of territory, and it'll give us an opportunity to play to a real straight up and down hip hop audience, which is what we've tried to do in the United States, with the exception of the Lollapalooza tour and the couple of little runs we've done on our own. Our 3 U.S. tours have been with Public Enemy, House of Pain, and now Cypress Hill. So keeping our connections with the hip-hop community intact is something that's very important to us.
Do you think Rage Against the Machine is like the Public Enemy for white kids?
I wouldn't say. I would certainly wouldn't limit it to white kids. I mean, our audience is pretty ethnically diverse, but we do speak to some of the same injustices and inequalities that Public Enemy does, but we do it with guitars, and so it's not. Well, I think the Public Enemy has. I mean, when we played with Public Enemy, 2/3 of the audience is white at many of the shows, which is interesting. But the directness of the message is something which we have very much in common with Public Enemy, and due to the fact that we do, play aggressive, sort of punk rock oriented music, it's inescapable. That a sizable percentage of the audience will be fairer skinned, but we've never limited ourselves to that because of the band's ethnic diversity, and because of the music, because of the musical diversity draws from some traditionally non-white genres. We've made every effort to keep to have our audience be as broad-based as our influences are.
You described yourself in some of this biomaterial as a socialist rock musician. So can a socialist rock musician make music on a major label?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's obviously no accident. That's part of the that's part of the strategy. I have no sort of elitist illusions about the romantic purity of independent labels. We're trying to do something that no band on any independent label has ever done, which is to substantively affect the fulcrum of power as it affects our audience. in order to do that, we've decided to cast the nets wide, reaching angry young people from Prague to Belfast to, Indianapolis.
Do you think that your audience, I mean, I'm sure that there are some people there who are really seriously, there's a lot of injustice in the world, and I'm sure that there are some people who are incredibly affected by it that come to your shows. But do you think that there are a lot of just, suburban white kids, or suburban kids, forget the white, all right?
Yeah.
Suburban kids who are just, kind of going, yeah, I'm mad at my parents. They won't give me enough allowance,
It's always been our intention not to strictly preach to the converted, and that reaching people and exposing them to a new set of ideas is something that's very important. Now, some of those people are going to take something, some of it away with them, and some aren't. We have no control over that. But reaching those people is very important. I mean, I was a suburban kid. In my local record shops, I had nothing to choose. My choices were limited, basically, to the musical spectrum ranged from Kiss to Fleetwood Mac, and Donna Summer,
and everything in between. Yeah,
and that was about it. And there was no minor threat. There was no nothing like that until the years late, the Clash and the Sex Pistols filtered through. So it's really our intention to find those angry young boys and girls out there now and start organizing, which is what we're doing on this tour. We're attempting to highlight the Leonard Peltier case. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and pushing an anti-censorship agenda where we're passing out at the shows literature, basically 5 points on how to stir up trouble in your hometown with regards to the issue of censorship. It's basically how to organize a successful boycott of record retailers who have bowed down to the censors. Because it's our belief that the censorship battle can be won at the retail level. So far, all of the pressure on the record chains or the mom and pop stores has come from the PMRC and the right-wing fundamentalists who are well connected and well funded, but they're not the ones that buy records. People in the Lollapalooza audience, and the Cypress Hill audience, and the Rage Against the Machine audience, who by basically making an example of a few record shops in their community that have bowed down to censorship, they can turn the tide back one record store at a time.
Can you give me a detail or two?
First is identifying the record shops in your community which either refuse to sell parental advisory stickered albums to people of all ages. Well, right now there are over 3,000 record shops in the States which refuse to sell stickered albums to minors, which I think is a travesty because, when you're 15, 16, 17-year-olds are, or even younger than are beginning to sort of put things together and see where they fit into the world around them, and to deny people, of that age where they may be becoming politically aware, music from confrontational, anti-establishment artists is criminal. I mean, and that to me is really the whole point of censorship, is to deny access to young people of angry music, or music that questions the status quo. Secondly, once you've identified the offending record store, to just ask them to basically do the right thing, support the First Amendment, and whether it's stock records that blacklisted records or not, keep them in an 18, or keep them in like sort of a pornography section of the shop. And if they refuse to do that, which they probably will, and a lot of this is based on the assumption that they don't take young people seriously, is to teach them that they should. And by passing out flyers at your local high school, junior high, college, or at local rock shows, or when national acts come through, anywhere, or dances, wherever record buyers gather, simply pass out flyers and say boycott X records.
Does this include like Walmart and Kmart for not stocking Madonna?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They're some of the principal offenders and some of the ones that need to be dragged down. Obviously, record stores do not care about the First Amendment, or they wouldn't be so eager to bow down to the censors. But also, obviously, I don't believe that they are ideologically concurrent with the groups like the PMRC that claim NWA records or Rage Against the Machine records are causing the moral decay of our society. They just don't want the hassle, and the idea is to give them a bigger problem and to start chipping away at what they do care about, which is their profit margin. When they become less competitive with the record shops in their area, which are doing the right thing and selling any record to anybody, then we'll get their ears. And also, I think a key part of any successful boycott is picketing. Picking some public property, and on a weekend afternoon during heavy record buying hours, just you and a couple friends, or as many people as you can get, just carry the same placards that say X record store supports censorship, boycott them, is really going to make an impact, not only in changing the record store's policy, but in helping young people to really taste their own power and to realize that just sitting back on your couch and complaining about censorship or complaining about other problems in your school or your community or in the world in general isn't enough. But getting up and acting is what needs to be done in order to achieve results. And this is, I think, an important first step, because censorship is an issue which directly affects. It's a kind of domestic repression which directly affects our audience.
I know we're supposed to keep these to 15 minutes, so I'll try to get this in. But you bring up so many good points; it's really hard to to sit here and go, well, yeah, okay, next question. What I'm interested in really though is, how do you know you're right? How do you know that you're right? That this is the thing to do, and that maybe it's not a good. And I'm just playing devil's advocate here, because I agree with you. I think music should be available to everybody who wants to listen to it. I don't think anybody ever got hurt by ideas. But how do you know that you're right? That you're telling kids the right thing to do?
Well, with regards to the issue of censorship, there's never been one shred of scientific evidence that has demonstrated that any lyric from any rock or rap record has ever adversely affected the behavior of any individual, period. And so then, with that being the facts, then you have to start analyzing why it is that the censors, that those who would censor, are attacking this music. And I think that there's a racist element to it. For example, the head office of Musicland has sent out an edict to all the different branches with a blacklist of records. The vast majority of are rap artists, and it excludes like Andrew Dice Clay and people like that. I don't want to get into the specifics of the validity of the different kinds of art form, but there really is an ideological agenda behind the pro-censorship movement, and keeping confrontational music out of young people's hands, I think, is paramount. It's really all about power, because in order to exercise our right of freedom of expression and our right to exchange ideas, we have to exercise the power in order to do it. And right now, the other side has been responsible for most of the pressure. There are some really good anti-censorship groups out there. Rock Out Censorship is one in the Midwest, so is Parents for Rock and Rap. But they're adult organizations are organizing it, trying to lobby on more of a legislative level. And what we want to do is encourage street action, by people in our audience, to not only draw them into the political arena, but right this particular wrong.
I imagine that a large majority of your audience is in their 20s, maybe early 20s, maybe teens, whatever. Is this music going to last for them? Are they going to be listening to it when they're 35?
Sir, I can't make that prediction. I really can't say.
Now, this is something that I've been thinking about for a long time, because I'm 34 years old, and I even though I don't listen to much old music anymore just because of my job, I wonder, I know I can go back and listen to the stuff that I liked and pretty much think that yeah, I was right, this was good. And I wonder if your audience is going to be able to do the same. And not just you, but rap audiences and things like that. Is this going to be the music, they're going to look back on their teen years and go, I don't know.
Well, I think the important test is going to be what the society we live in looks like in 15 years. Because of the people in our audience, we're fighting on both an ideological and a real plane, and the kind of organizing that we're doing now will manifest itself in constantly recreating the society that we live in. And by not shying away from confrontation, and by not shying away from struggle, hopefully it is us and the people in our audience who are going to make this society 15 years from now look very different than it does today, and that will be the background, against which they'll be able to judge their musical tastes in their early 20s.
Two other things, I'll let you go. What do you think your reaction's going to be the first time somebody tells you, "Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me"?
No, I've heard that more than once.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
We've heard that at a couple of shows.
The record company?
Oh, no. They've been beaten into submission. I'm not sure how much will they have left in dealing with it. Both the record company, I believe, knew what they were getting into, but certain organizations like Lollapalooza, for example, really did. I enjoyed the tour very much and was glad that we did it. We got to play with a lot of good friends and artists with integrity all summer long. And that's fine with me. But Lollapalooza really got sort of outflanked from the left. They sort of see themselves as this extremely progressive touring entity. And, when we called them on did you hear about the whole T-shirt?
No, what is
debacle? We normally sell our shirts for $10. $10 for short sleeve shirts, $13 for long sleeve shirts, because we know how much it costs to make them, and we're not going to rip our audience up. And the official Lollapalooza shirt was $23, and they would not let us undercut their $23 price. And so, we said it would be better for everybody if you just let us sell our shirts at a fair price. They fear that, given the average audience member given the choice between a $10 shirt and a $23 shirt, might choose the $10, and their profits would be cut. I'm sorry, can you hold on one second?
Yeah, sure. Hi. That's telling you, get off the phone, you got another interview. Yeah.
I know.
Anyway, so what was the upshot of this with the...
Okay, I'm sorry, just 1 second. I just want to make sure I catch this next interview before he goes complaining back to the record company.
Okay.
So the fallout of this was we didn't sell shirts on the tour because we couldn't sell them at the price that was fair. And every day from the stage, Zach pointed out exactly where the money from that $23 was going. What percentage was going to the local promoters? What percentage was going to the land proprietor who do nothing but show up at the end of the day with a truck to carry away the kids' money? Told them just what a rip-off the $23 T-shirt was. The result was that Lollapalooza T-shirt sales plummeted dramatically all summer long, and they learned a lesson. I don't know if they learned a lesson. They were taught a lesson. They sat in class. They were schooled. We'll see next year what but I think that they just weren't ready for that.
Well, nobody really thinks that a band is going to come out and be true to its ideals, because, there just aren't very many people who are true to their ideals anymore. So, one other question, I'll let you go. This is for another story I'm working on. What do you think music's going to be like in the year 2000? Not your music, just music in general.
Right. I'm looking ahead to see what music's going to be like on our next album. That's really what my principal concern has been. Who would have guessed 10 years ago that bands like Primus would be selling 1 million records now? Something that was so completely unpredictable. The only thing I'm fearing is a return to new wave. That's really like my one dread. Is that,
why, did you get rid of all your skinny ties before?
That's really my one fear, and I'm sure it'll come around and it'll be very hip and fashionable, but I'm scared of it. By the year 2000, hopefully there will be a healthy dose of musical experimentation and challenging music put out by artists. That's what I can hope for, but who knows? But we're kind of in a period now where you have artists who have something to say, reaching a lot of people, which is rare for the most part in the history of rock music, and I'm sure there'll be a glam backlash sometime in the future. But it's just important for artists to do as I say, to stick to their guns and to keep what we're trying to do is to really sever the bonds between our music and entertainment, and really forge bonds between music and activism in a way that that hasn't been done before. And so we're really exploring uncharted territory in that regard. And so music may be a completely different thing, in a completely different world by the year 2000. And so we'll just see where we fit in all that.
And as you're hanging up here, is Adlai Stevenson the inspiration for all this, since you're from Libertyville?
Uh-oh, you've done your Libertyville read.
Oh, I just knew he was the man from Libertyville. I'm not old enough to, I wasn't born at the time that he was running, but I still, I've seen enough Adlai Stevenson stuff to know.
Right. Now, heavens no, I think that Adlai Stevenson is much too middle of the road for our political taste. Okay.
Tell the record company that you can, that interviews with you cannot be done in 15 minutes.
I'll let them know.
Sorry about that, but I appreciate your time.
Thanks, man.
Take care.
Okay, bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Tapes Archive podcast. Please remember you can always find more information about the show and the individual episodes at our website, thetapesarchive.com. Until next time, the vault is closed.